Every night, Catherine set 3 plates on the table. One for her husband, Greg, one for herself, and one for the girl behind the closed bedroom door upstairs. That plate always came back full. It wasn't spite, or laziness, or even indifference. It was grief, thick and slow, like the winter outside settling into cracks, freezing what once moved easily. Aubrey had been living with them for 121 days, and Catherine had counted every one. Not out of impatience, but out of fear. Fear that none of it was working. Fear that she'd never get through. At 15, Aubrey was a constellation of contradictions. Moody but polite, guarded but not rude, invisible but loud in absence. Her presence filled the house even when she never left her room. And Catherine? Catherine had tried. She switched to lactose-free milk, remembered to buy the shampoo Aubrey used, left the thermostat 2 degrees higher at night, even though she hated waking up sweaty. She learned to knock before entering, never pushed conversation, and didn't ask about the mother whose ghost lived in the eyes of the girl she was trying not to scare away. Tonight dinner was roast chicken. The house smelled of rosemary and garlic. She mashed the potatoes by hand, just the way Greg liked, and set the table neatly, as always, forks to the left, napkins folded, 3 glasses of water, 1 slice of lemon in each. Greg appeared in the doorway, loose tie and tired smile. "She's not coming down, is she?" he asked. Catherine shook her head. "Not tonight." He kissed her cheek. "It's not you, Cat. I know." But she wasn't sure. They ate quietly. Occasionally, Greg would bring up work his new assistant, a glitch in the scheduling software, a client who wanted 3 mock-ups by Friday. Catherine listened, responded, but her mind kept drifting back to that 3rd plate. She washed the dishes after, leaving Aubrey's food warm in the oven with a note on the counter. "No pressure. Just in case you're hungry later." That had become their pattern. A note, a plate, a silence. That night, Catherine stood outside Aubrey's room for the 3rd time in a week, hand raised to knock but never quite making contact. Instead, she whispered, "Good night," to the hallway and walked away. The next morning, the plate was still in the oven, untouched. But something new sat on the counter. A sticky note, scribbled in sharp handwriting. "Don't like gravy." Catherine stared at it for a long moment. Then she smiled. Saturday mornings in the house were quiet, almost too quiet. Greg had left early for a site visit, and Catherine wandered into the kitchen still in her robe, hair tied up messily, clutching a mug of coffee like it was armor. She saw it right away. Another sticky note. This time, it was left beside the fruit bowl. "You can use lemon but no onions, please." Catherine couldn't help but smile. The please wasn't lost on her. Progress came in small gestures, a word, a glance, a note. She folded it up and tucked it in her pocket like a souvenir. She spent the morning sorting through the storage closet. The holidays were approaching, and she thought decorating might soften the house's sharp edges, make it feel less like a place someone landed in, and more like a place someone might stay. Buried behind old boxes of Greg's law textbooks, she found a dusty guitar case. She wouldn't have opened it if not for the small sticker near the handle. Property of May Chambers, Aubrey's mother. Catherine's hands trembled slightly as she opened the case. Inside was a faded acoustic guitar, strings a bit loose, pickguard worn. Tucked beneath it was a folded piece of sheet music, handwritten and soft from age. The title read, "Stars Over Shelter." Catherine recognized the handwriting from a photo Greg once showed her back when they were still dating. It was musical, looping, unapologetic. She didn't know what compelled her, but she placed the sheet music on the kitchen counter and left the case open on the couch. Maybe, just maybe, it would draw Aubrey out. That afternoon, Catherine baked lemon squares. No onions anywhere. When she heard soft footsteps upstairs, she didn't say anything, just kept moving. Let the moment breathe. Then she heard it. A gasp. Sharp. Painful. "Why did you touch that?" Aubrey stood in the living room, fists clenched, eyes wide with something between anger and fear. Catherine turned slowly, dusting flour from her hands. "I'm sorry," she said calmly. "I found it in the closet. I didn't know it would upset you." "It's hers," Aubrey snapped. "I know. You didn't ask." He didn't. A tense silence fell between them. Aubrey looked like she might cry, or scream, or run, but then her voice cracked. She used to sing that song. "Every time I couldn't sleep." Catherine said nothing. She walked over slowly, closed the case gently, and handed it to Aubrey. "She still can." Aubrey didn't take it at first. Her arms stayed crossed, But her eyes, dark and wary, softened just a little. And that was enough. Later that night, after the house had gone quiet, Catherine heard faint chords drifting down the hallway. Uneven, hesitant, but familiar, and beautiful. The week of Thanksgiving arrived with sleet and half-hearted sunshine. Catherine had always loved this holiday, the quiet pause before the chaos of Christmas. A meal, a table, a reason to gather. But this year, the table loomed larger than usual. Greg's sister, Valerie, was coming with her husband. So was their mother, June, a sharp-eyed woman with a weakness for critique and a talent for backhanded compliments. Catherine worried. Not for herself, but for Aubrey. She hadn't said yes to attending dinner, but she hadn't said no either. That was enough to keep Catherine hopeful. They prepped together the day before. Catherine making pies, Aubrey grating cheese silently for the mac and cheese, humming something under her breath that Catherine recognized as the tune from the guitar case. Neither said anything about it. It was the closest to peace they had known. Thanksgiving Day arrived. The house smelled of rosemary, cinnamon, and warm rolls. Catherine set the table for 6. Aubrey came down just before 5 p.m., wearing a black hoodie, earbuds looped around her neck. She didn't smile, but she didn't retreat either. Want to help with the drinks? Catherine asked gently. Aubrey shrugged and opened the fridge. Greg beamed when he saw her. Glad you're joining us, kiddo. She nodded. The front door opened. And suddenly, the room filled with perfume, chatter, and the clatter of heels on tile. Valerie hugged Greg first. Then Catherine, who stiffened slightly at the overly long embrace. June, tall and poised, gave Aubrey a glance not unkind, but unmistakably assessing. Is this her? She asked Greg. Greg smiled. Yes. This is Aubrey. She's grown, June said. You're your mother's twin. Aubrey's posture stiffened. The table felt smaller now. Dinner began. The conversation danced around politics and weather, veering dangerously into childhood stories. Valerie laughed too loud. June eyed the mac and cheese. I suppose this is one of those new traditions? Catherine smiled tightly. Aubrey helped with it. Did she? June said. Well, that's nice. Aubrey pushed her food around, silent. Greg tried to steer things gently. Aubrey's been learning guitar. She's really good. Valerie perked up. Oh, your mom used to sing at church, didn't she? Aubrey didn't respond. Catherine felt the tension thicken. June added, I do hope she's not too much trouble, Catherine. Teenagers are difficult, especially when they're not your own. The words sliced. Greg's fork paused midair. Aubrey looked up, expression unreadable. Catherine's heart pounded. She looked at Greg. He opened his mouth, then closed it. No one said anything. So she did. She is mine. The room stilled. Catherine continued. Voice even. She didn't come from me. But she sits at my table. I cook for her. I wait for her. I see her. That makes her mine. Valerie cleared her throat. June blinked. Then smiled faintly tight. Lipped. Guarded. Aubrey stared at Catherine. And for the first time her eyes weren't wary. They were soft. Later that night, long after the guests had gone, Aubrey lingered in the kitchen. I didn't expect you to say that, she said quietly. Catherine shrugged. I didn't plan to. Aubrey picked up a leftover roll, broke it in half. You didn't have to, she said. I know. A long pause. Then, softly, thanks for doing it anyway. Catherine smiled. That's what family does. The letter came in a pale pink envelope with cursive handwriting that looked like it belonged in another decade. It was addressed to Aubrey. Catherine found it tucked between the ads and bills, almost missed it. She placed it on the counter without opening it, even though every part of her wanted to know who had reached through the silence. Later that afternoon, Aubrey stood in the kitchen staring at it. You gonna open it? Catherine asked gently. Aubrey didn't answer. She slid her thumb under the flap, unfolded the thick, cream-colored paper, and read silently. Catherine watched her shoulders rise, then fall. What is it? My grandmother, Aubrey murmured. She wants me to visit for Christmas. Silence stretched thin between them. Have you talked to her since your mom passed? Aubrey shook her head. Not really. She sent flowers, that's it. And now? She says she wants to reconnect. Catherine nodded. Do you want to go? Aubrey's face tightened. I don't know. That night, Catherine told Greg. He rubbed his temples. I haven't heard from Diane's mother in years. I thought she'd written us off. She wants to see Aubrey, Catherine said softly. That has to mean something. Or she just feels guilty. Maybe both. A week passed. The letter sat untouched on Aubrey's desk. Then one night, Catherine heard a quiet knock on her door. "Can you help me book a train ticket?" Aubrey asked. Catherine looked up. "You're going?" Aubrey hesitated. "I think I have to." They booked it together. 1 seat. Round trip. 3 days. Catherine packed snacks. Left her a scarf. Wrote a note she never gave. At the station, just before Aubrey stepped onto the train, she turned and hugged Catherine. Tight, without words. Then she was gone. The house felt hollow. Catherine cooked too much food. Cleaned rooms that didn't need it. Watched the door every time a car drove by. She told herself it was only 3 days. But the house didn't feel like home without Aubrey's quiet footsteps, her empty plate, her sticky notes. Greg tried to reassure her. "She'll be back." She chose to come back. Catherine nodded. But the silence still echoed. When Aubrey returned, her face was different. Not sad. Not angry. Just closed. "How was it?" Catherine asked. Aubrey shrugged. "Her house is nice. She made roast. There's a piano in the sitting room. And she asked a lot about Mom. But she didn't ask about me. Not really. I'm sorry." Aubrey looked at Catherine. Her eyes were clear. "I realized something," she said. "She wants to remember my mom. But you want to know me." Catherine's breath caught. "She's family," Aubrey continued. "But she doesn't make me feel like I belong. And do I?" Aubrey didn't answer. She just stepped forward and hugged her again. Longer this time. Winter settled in, heavy and slow. Minneapolis froze into itself streets, dusted with salt, windows glowing warm behind layers of frost. Inside their home, Catherine strung lights across the banister, hung stockings, and baked gingerbread that never made it past breakfast. Aubrey had been back for nearly a month since the visit to her grandmother's, and something had shifted. She still didn't talk much, but she lingered longer in rooms. She offered to stir sauce. She didn't flinch when Catherine brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. She left a sticky note on Catherine's bathroom mirror one morning. "Don't forget your scarf. It's freezing." Catherine took a picture of the note, just in case it disappeared. One evening, Greg came home to find Catherine in the laundry room, folding shirts with more care than necessary. He watched her for a moment, then said, "You're waiting for something." She didn't turn around. "I don't know what you mean." "You do." She sat on the dryer and sighed. "She's letting me in. I can feel it. But there's this wall still, like she's testing how far I'll go." Greg leaned against the doorframe. "That's not a wall. That's fear. You're the first person who didn't walk away." Catherine looked down at her hands. "I just want to do it right." "You are. But what if she never calls me Mom?" she whispered. Greg stepped forward, took her hand. "Then you love her anyway." That weekend, a storm rolled in. Snow thickened the roads. Greg was called to assist a stranded client in Duluth and had to leave overnight. Catherine made lasagna and invited Aubrey to help with cookies. They danced around each other in the kitchen floor on noses, spoons in hand, Christmas music humming from the radio. Later on the couch, with the fire crackling low, Aubrey pulled out a photo album Catherine had never seen before. "My mom made this," she said. Catherine sat beside her. Each page was filled with handwritten notes, baby pictures, school drawings, pressed leaves, and ticket stubs. She used to call it our living story. Every year we added to it. They flipped through the pages together. At the back, there was a blank space with a single photo tucked in Aubrey at age 14, holding a guitar. Catherine touched the corner gently. "She didn't get to add this one," Aubrey said. Then she added, "But maybe we still can." That night, Catherine couldn't sleep. She lay awake listening to the wind howl against the window, snow tapping at the glass. A soft knock came at her door. She sat up. "Aubrey?" The door opened slowly. Aubrey stepped inside, wrapped in a blanket, hair messy. "I had a nightmare," she said quietly. Without hesitation, Catherine lifted the covers. Aubrey crawled in beside her, curled up. They didn't speak, but just before she drifted off, Aubrey mumbled one word, soft, drowsy, unsure. "But real." "Mom?" Catherine's breath hitched. She didn't move. She didn't respond. She just held her, and let the word settle between them like a promise. The new year arrived quietly. No fireworks, no loud parties, just the three of them on the couch, watching a black and white movie, and dozing off before midnight. Catherine woke up with Aubrey's head on her shoulder and Greg's hand resting on her knee. The fire had gone out. The house was silent, warm, and safe. That week, Aubrey asked Catherine if they could print a few new photos for the living story. Together, they went through Catherine's phone. There was the picture of the sticky note. Don't forget your scarf. A blurry selfie from the kitchen, flour on both their cheeks. A snapshot of Aubrey playing guitar in the living room, her eyes soft and unaware. They printed them all. Then, one Saturday afternoon, they pulled out the album. The last 2 pages had remained untouched since the day Aubrey's mother passed. Now they filled them, carefully. Together, under each picture, Aubrey wrote in tidy block letters, "First Christmas in the new house." Catherine's lasagna was actually amazing. Learning to stay. On the very last page, there was one more blank square. Catherine placed a picture there. One Greg had taken just last week. Catherine and Aubrey sitting on the porch swing, sharing headphones, snowflakes caught in their hair. Underneath it, Aubrey wrote just one word. Home. Spring came late to Minneapolis that year, but it came anyway. The snow melted slowly, revealing stubborn grass and forgotten sidewalks. Life began to stretch again. Greg planted tomatoes. Catherine started working half-days at the bookstore. Aubrey brought home a permission slip for a school trip and left it purposeful on the fridge. One Thursday afternoon, Aubrey came home to find Catherine reorganizing the coat closet. Aubrey stood in the doorway, backpack slung over one shoulder. "Do you still want me here?" she asked suddenly. Catherine turned. Her heart skipped. "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Every day." Aubrey nodded slowly. Then, barely above a whisper, "Okay, then I'll stay." That weekend, they hosted a small barbecue. Valerie came. So did Greg's co-workers. Even June showed up, surprisingly civil, and brought a strawberry pie. But the part Catherine would always remember came after dessert. She was standing at the sink, drying dishes. Aubrey came up behind her, slid a photo onto the counter. It was a Polaroid taken by Greg of the two of them in the garden. Hair tied back, covered in dirt, and laughing. Aubrey had written on it 2 words. No sticky note this time. No hesitación. My mom. Catherine stared at it, then turned, tears stinging. Aubrey hugged her. And for the first time, Catherine didn't feel like she was trying to become something she wasn't. She simply was.